So the wine has arrived. So if you're one of the people who were waiting for the wine, it's next in the room next to this room. If you want coffee, water, it's or babovka, it's in the next room. If you want beer, you have to go to the bar and say they should be charged to the meeting room, and it will be free of charge. Mr. Milei would prohibit me from saying it's free, so it's paid by us. This is my presentation. I need to stuck. So we lost one speaker to the whooping cough. So it's of course unfortunate that he's not here, but fortunate that we will not be infected. And therefore I decided to mansplain something about a country that I had to find on Google Maps this morning because I wasn't exactly sure where it's actually located. So I have a very brief introduction. Maybe I will say something my fellow panelists wanted to say, and maybe I will say something that they will want me to criticize for. We'll see. First slide is something about us. We are the Liberal Institut, or Liberální Institut in Czech. We're a Czech think tank established during the revolution during the revolution in 1989. Our main goals are individual liberty, free markets, limited government, and peace. Peace was not a very large objective for us in the 30 years of existence, but it's gained a lot of importance in the last 2 years. Among other things, we publish books. You can buy them discounted in the next room after the event, or maybe during if you're too bored. And since February 2022, we have a humanitarian mission to Ukraine that is here. If you'd like to support it, we'll be more than happy. One of the things that surprised me, or I welcomed, was that Mr. Milei is actually a supporter of Ukraine in this conflict. I hear he's preparing some Latin American summit on that, so that's a good point. Today, I found out that the Argentinian anthem begins with the words, "Hear mortals, the sacred cry, freedom, freedom, freedom." The question, though, is how much the presidents or the other politicians heed this chant. So basic facts about Argentina that I was maybe I'm the only uneducated person, but I didn't know any of them. So at least for my education, Argentina has more than 4 times more inhabitants than the Czech Republic. It's 35 times as big. Its GDP is about half of per head. So a medium Argentinian is about half as rich as a Czech person. And the Gini coefficient, which measures how unequal the society is a lot bigger, as is typical, is a lot bigger than the Gini coefficient in the Czech Republic, because the Czech Republic is one of the most equal countries or societies in the world, and it's typical for American countries to be a lot more unequal. It's about as unequal as China or the United States. We rarely see these numbers in Europe. That's a fact to bear in mind when we are discussing the policy of the Americas, I would say. I found this very interesting quote about Argentina, and I messaged my Spanish teacher, who's Colombian. The quote says, "Argentina is a country where if you leave for 20 days, everything changes. But if you leave for 20 years and you come back, everything is the same." And my Colombian teacher said, well, it applies to Colombia as well, I think. So the country where nothing changes. This is an interesting chart, the GDP annual growth, where it seems one year you have growth and the other year you have a recession. It's a really interesting chart. I was not expecting this. It's from 1961 to 2022, in case you can read that. But all in all, it results in some progress, in some GDP growth. So it's not like Argentina has been stagnant for 60 years. There is growth. Inflation is a very interesting thing. The left chart maxes at 3,000. Yes, 3,000%. That was in 1990 or 1989. If you cut that out, you have the right chart where you have inflation in the region of 30-40% for many years, and of course recently. I don't know what the numbers were, at 265% last year, I think. The only period without big inflation is the 1990s, where the peso was pegged to the dollar. The Human Freedom Index in Argentina shows us two things: that personal freedom is high and not diminishing, but economic freedom has peaked in around 2000. That's the white line, and then it continued to go down. So in personal freedoms, Argentina in some ways maybe is even better than the Czech Republic, even though in total Czech Republic wins by about 1 point out of 10. But economic freedom is is going down. It's progressing in a not favorable direction. That's all from me. Our panelists tonight are Lars-André Richter, who is the head of Prague office of the Friedrich-Naumann Foundation, who previously served as the head of office in Buenos Aires in Argentina, for Argentina and Paraguay, and before that in Korea. So he knows all the languages. And my other guests are Lautaro Soza, who is the national coordinator of Students for Liberty in Hungary. And before that, he was the national coordinator of Students for Liberty in Argentina, and who worked on Javier Milei's presidential campaign. And Anabella Araudo, who has a PhD in astronomy. She's from Argentina and has been working in the Czech Republic since 2017. Her research is on relativistic astrophysics, cosmic ray physics, and laboratory astrophysics. And she currently works at ELI Beamlines. That's the nice building in Dolní Břežany, in case you've ever biked through this town or village town, I think. So we decided that you would go first, ladies first. The format of the debate will be every panelist will give an opening statement. Then if there are points to debate among the panelists, we will debate them, and then we will give the floor to you for a Q&A. I don't know anything about Argentina. I will just try to moderate the thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm Anabella Araudo, and for today I prepared like a very brief introduction. Martin told me that the discussion is going to be what was happening in Argentina in the last year, that we are now in the situation that we are, with the president that we have. The former president in Argentina was Alberto Fernandez, and his government was, I think everyone in Argentina was completely disappointed during his term, because was no program and no leadership. And I think this is the worst for when you are in charge of the country. Apart from that, when
can you speak up, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear?
Okay. Okay. Is it better now? Okay, thank you. So when Alberto Fernandez started his term, it was after Mauricio Macri, whom during his term he asked for this a lot of money from the International Bank, and then when he left, it was this huge debt that Alberto Fernandez has to take care of it. And of course, it was not nice to start when you start the government and you have this huge debt. Also, there was COVID, and also was the biggest period in Argentina without rain. As you know, Argentina is a very agricultural country, and it was the worst period in the last 60 years. And because of that, Argentina lost $30,000 million in 1 year. So all these things, among others, make that the term of Alberto Fernandez was not good for everyone, and everyone was really unhappy. And on the top of that, his party decided that for the candidate that they will propose to run for the presidential campaign was the current or the former Minister of Finances. So when Argentina was having the highest inflation in the world, so it was not, of course, like intelligent decision to candidate this person to run for the presidential campaign. So in all these situations is when Milei somehow appeared with a lot of popularity, because what he was proposing is that everyone has to live. Like he was against all this, what he called the caste, like all the politicians taking care of the country for a long time have to leave, and there will be like a new wave of new people. This was his speech, and it was quite convincing for many people, and he won the elections with a lot of votes. But as soon as he started in office, as it is common in Argentina, what people are saying, it is not what they are doing. And nowadays, if you take a look how he composed the government, most of the people they were doing in office before with Mauricio Macri. So I really don't see that his lemma, as he was saying, everyone has to live, he's really doing that, because half of the government now, they were already before. And also, from my point of view, many of the actions he's doing, or what he wants to do, is completely against like normal citizens, not about the caste. I mean, rich people or politicians, they are not suffering much. In fact, they wanted to increase their salary by 30% automatically, when they are all the time claiming we don't have money. And the prices for public transport increases like 300% in 1 month. The salaries are not getting up, and the inflation is still growing. So I really don't think that what he was claiming during the campaign is what he's doing now. And also, to finish my presentation, I want to say something about science, because as you probably if you are following the news in Argentina, it is like a big thing now. They are cutting the budget for science quite significantly, and really I don't see how someone who is claiming that we are going for progress can do it without science, without supporting science, because all the progress, it is really coming from science and from basic science. That then we can find some application for it. But what we need to do is basic science, and basic science, it is not supported by private companies. It's supported by the government everywhere. This is what I contribute more, I think, during this debate concerning science. It is not me, not anyone doing science in Argentina is happy with the current government, and I'm happy to discuss more deep on it later during the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe you can expand on it a little bit. So what's the Milei's government stance towards financing science, and are there international cooperations with, I don't know, the United States or other Latin American countries, or even the EU, that are discontinued, or what's the situation?
The most important thing is the budget. I mean, every year they have to send the money to the institute. We have CONICET there. It's like the Czech Academy of Sciences, kind of the same. It's the institution that supports science in Argentina. So they have institute everywhere in the country, and every year they have to send money to run the institute, right? To pay the salaries, to run the experiments, to everything. This year, the budget that they sent is enough only until June, until half of the year. They send the very same budget as last year. And if we consider the inflation that we have, with this money, it is, yeah, as I said, it is enough only to pay salaries, not even cleaning the institutes until June, until summer. This, among other things, like what I found really very bad, it is that there is also kind of trendy among all the people in the government to say that science is not useful, that what we do in CONICET, it is not useful for anything. And this, I find it completely inappropriate. Even when CONICET, it is this Argentinian Research Council, is the best one in Latin America. It was ranked in 2022 as the best state agency for science in Latin America. And these people are saying that what scientists in CONICET is doing is not useful.
Okay, thank you. We will definitely talk about it later. Now I will give the floor to Mr. Richter, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Very good evening. Muy buenas tardes, muy buenas noches. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here. So thank you very, very much for the invitation. Thank you very much for organizing this very, very important conference on a very interesting topic. Yeah, as it was mentioned, I had the honor to be the director or the resident representative, that is the official title, of my institution, of my organization, which is the Friedrich-Naumann Foundation for Freedom in Argentina. So I spent 5 years there, I lived there, I worked there, and I might say I suffered there. Since that was, first of all, the time of COVID. I arrived in 2018, so 1.5 years before COVID started. So I had one year more or less, in my private home, and from time to time in the office. It was a very, very tough, what is it in English? A very tough, very tough blockade. So very, very tough closing in Argentina, and I was suffering as well, since I was there during the 4 years of the former president Alberto Fernandez, who was a Peronist. So I came in the last year of President Macri. He was already mentioned. So a non-Peronist president. He was not re-elected in 2019 after one period. Then came a Peronist president as well, and then last November, that was after I have left. I left in August and came to this very beautiful city of Prague in August, September last year, and I didn't see the victory of Javier Milei. So when it comes to Javier Milei, we as Naumann Foundation, and that is a kind of official standpoint, official position of my organization, we like Milei and we don't like him at the same time. We know him. He was a kind of partner, of ally. I mean, you know that he was for many years. He served first of all as a professor for economy. So we invited. We in the sense of my predecessor, my pre-predecessor. They invited him several times to give lectures, to give speeches on political and economic issues. So I did the same before COVID. So I had 2 events with him. I might say Friedrich-Naumann Foundation. So we are partner of your institute. So we are a non-profit German organization. We are on political education. So we are doing more the same like you. So we are think tanks. So we write analysis papers. We organize conferences. So everything having to do with political education. And Naumann Foundation has a very liberal profile, but liberal in the sense of centrist position. So that's why we like and dislike Milei at the same time. We like him to start with the first with the positive issues, and we might come back to that later. We like him naturally because of his economic policies. That's not a big surprise. I mean, he's a libertarian, very on free market, freedom in general, free market, property rights, and so on and so forth. Things we as Naumann Foundation, liberal institution, we like as well. So that's a very important message. So his political philosophy, very important thing that he won the election in November. So we have some, that is a detail, we come back to that later maybe as well. So all of you know that he's at least he was, it's a little bit complicated now, but he used to be very much in favor of a dollarization. We saw the statistics that Argentina has some experience with that. So he was during the campaigning, he was very much in favor of a dollarization of the Argentinian currency or the Argentinian economy because of the high inflation. And he was very much in favor of eliminating the national or the central bank. So we are a little bit more critical on that. We are very much in favor of a central bank, but it needs to be independent. So that's the point. That was not independent in Argentina. That was a part of the economic ministry, not more than that. But okay, there was a difference between Naumann Foundation, the German European liberals, and Milei and his team, and the dollarization as well. That's a very, I mean, I'm not an economist. I have when it comes to this issue, quite superficial knowledge, but we see it very critical. We like, beside that, we like very much, and that has been mentioned as well, his foreign policy. He's very much against dictatorships. Might be a little bit simple, specifically for a president who needs to be maybe a little bit more more neutral figure. But I think he is right. He's very critical on China. He's very critical on the Chinese influence in Latin America in general and in Argentina specifically. And I mean, that's very important. The influence and the previous government, the Peronist government, was very much in favor of attracting Chinese capital, not knowing, not understanding what does it mean. So he's very critical on China. He's very supportive when it comes to independency of Taiwan. He's very critical on the Kremlin. He's very much, that was mentioned as well. And we are very happy for that. He's very clear when it comes to supporting the Ukraine and when it comes to criticizing the Kremlin and Putin and not Russia in general, but Putin and the Kremlin. So very clear, unlike his predecessors, Christina Kirchner, President Fernandez, they were very much in favor. So we think that's a good point as well. This foreign policy is very much in favor of supporting Israel, very critical on the Hamas, and so on and so forth. So he's very last remark on the foreign policy, very critical on the BRICS issue, and I think that is decided now not to join BRICS. That was a right decision from my point of view, since that is an alliance of very strange countries, very dictatorships. So that was a right decision not to join that. So now comes the critical point. We are very critical on his on his relationships with right-wing movements, parties, ideas, representatives. I mean, you might have a look on the 10th of December, the day of his inauguration. It's always in Argentina, it's always 10th of December. United States, 20th of January. In Argentina, it's the 10th of December. Summer, hot day. It's a southern hemisphere. That is the inauguration day. And you I think you have in mind who attended this inauguration. That was Bolsonaro. We don't like him. That was Mr. Orban. We don't like him. That was Mr. Zelensky. We like him. So very interesting, this combination. And I think Trump, I hate him and we hate him. I think he sends some greetings. So very critical, very problematic, very, very heterogeneous, this figures there, and again, the only figure I like is Zelensky, or we like is Zelensky. The rest is critical. But anyway, I mean, again, there's light and shadow. So we don't like this approaches towards right-wing associations, and they are quite active in Latin America. I might mention only one. You know, the right-wing populist party Vox in Spain. So they are quite active. The party itself, their networks, they have a foundation as well. They are quite active in Latin America. I mean, due to the common history, same language and so on and so forth, with the exception of Brazil. So they are quite active as well. They are quite active there. Gathering, politicians, influential peoples to build a network, an anti-socialist network. And I mean, I'm clearly anti-socialist as well, and Naumann Foundation is very critical on socialism as well. But that doesn't mean that everything which has to do with anti-socialism is good. So that's why we see that very, very critical. So then maybe last remark on that. I think that is a very interesting point. The general political ideology, visions. I mean, that was mentioned now. That is always the debate. I mean, you can read if you read some articles on him. So sometimes he's a libertarian, sometimes a liberal, sometimes an ultra-liberal, sometimes a right conservative, liberal conservative. So it's very strange. But again, I mean, regarding to the people, there are prominent figures attending to his inauguration thing, and regarding to some very crucial political points: abortion, arms, same-sex marriage. He's sometimes liberal, sometimes conservative. He's liberal when it comes to drugs. He's liberal, so consumptions. He's liberal, so marijuana, not all drugs, but marijuana. We have the same discussion in Germany as well at the moment. So he's quite liberal when it comes to marijuana and some, soft drugs. He's liberal when it comes to same-sex marriage. That's great. He's liberal when it comes to abortion. So that's, no, he's not liberal when it comes to abortion. He's more conservative. He's liberal when it comes to the like question, since I mean Argentina is a quite Catholic country, but he's quite clear on separation between church or religion in general on the one hand and state on the other hand. We like that as liberals indeed, but he's conservative when it comes to bearing arms. He's conservative when it comes to abortion. So we have some critical ideas on that as well. So that's why it's, again, to sum it up, light and shadow. We used to have contacts with him, but we started to be a little bit more critical towards him after his election as deputy, since that was in 2021. He entered the parliament as deputy before 2 years later, in 2023, he became president. He first was deputy, more or less his own parliamentarian group in the House of Parliaments, in the Congress, in the first chamber. And so we have had some contacts with his staff, but not with himself. So far maybe as in some introductory or starting remarks, and maybe we can come back to the one point or the other point later during our discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. One quick question. Has the German finance minister talked to him yet? Because he's your guy, so what's the relationship there?
To be honest, I don't know that. I don't think so. First of all, I mean, Mr. Milei, he was in Europe. I mean, he attended this, the Davos, gave a quite interesting speech. So, I mean, he was more a professor than a politician, but that's the role we know him. That's the Milei we know. So he gave a quite interesting speech, but he was in Rome to meet the Pope, Francis, who is an Argentine as well, invited him to come over I mean, Milei invited the Pope to come over to his home country, but I think he was not in Berlin. And I think when president meets a politician, then normally it's the chancellor, prime minister, or head of state. Since, I mean, in Argentina, into brackets, you know that maybe. So the president, like in the United States, is head of state and head of government at the same time. So he would maybe more meet Mr. Chancellor Scholz or Federal President Steinmeier. I would say doesn't worth to meet them out of records. It would definitely be worth more to meet our finance minister, but I think maybe there are some operating on the operating working level, some contacts, but I doubt that he meet with the Liberal Party chief or president.
Thank you. And last but definitely not least, I'm expecting a very impassioned presentation now, Lautaro Soza. If we can manage this, you will have the floor. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Do we have the control for the slides? That's perfect. Okay, as we say in the introduction, I'm Lautaro Soza. I was national coordinator of Students for Liberty in Argentina back in the year 2020. Right now, I'm the national coordinator in Hungary. And I work with Javier Milei's campaign. This campaign is something unique. That's why with a lot of other Argentinians that we work in the campaign, we will do a podcast about it. So if you are interested about it, it will have this name. And let's start from the beginning of this story. This is the last appearance of Javier Milei in television as commentator. This happened when all the COVID lockdowns start happening across not only Argentina, but the world. And in that particular moment, he said two phrases that a lot of people was expecting. The first one was the biggest crisis of our history. Argentina was already in crisis when COVID hit. And as you can imagine, for a lot of people was worrying that okay, we are going to close up the economy, but we have growing inflation. We have a big nutrition crisis. We don't have even medical personnel in the hospitals. What we will do? And also, the solution that a lot of economists said, and is effectively what happened across the world, is that many politicians decided to print a lot of money to solve the COVID crisis. But Argentina was not able to do it because we already printed a lot of money. What was the great idea of Alberto Fernandez? Printing more. And that causes one of the biggest inflations of Argentine history. After this declaration, the president, Alberto Fernandez, and together with, I will say, the TV channels, they decided to not bring more liberal or libertarians speakers on the TV. And they decided this because a matter of security, as they say, because a lot of these influencers in some way, they were saying to young people, hey, maybe this lockdown thing is not the best. And they were scared that that will enrage people going out more, especially because, and this is something that I will talk about it afterwards, but most of Milei supporters are people between 17 and 20 years old. That it was the part of the population that was usually avoiding the COVID restrictions. So they decided this. As consequence of these lockdowns, it was the crisis. Massively, the protests start happening around October, that a lot of people, because in Argentina, the lockdown was total. We are talking about total lockdown for almost 7 to 8 months. Then you can maybe walk 5 meters from your home to do groceries. But it was really big lockdown. A lot of people was tired of it. And what happened around this time was this declaration in Congress, basically that in a pandemic you don't have rights. That's something that the Peronist senator Mayan said regarding the people that was protesting, because a lot of people were protesting about their individual rights, the right to gather, right to meet with their families. And then he said this: in a pandemic, you don't have rights. This, of course, enrages most of the youth in Argentina. And then this happens. Milei, for many years, was a TV commentator. He was a speaker. You can also see him with the same pin as I'm wearing, the Students for Liberty pin. I met him back in 2017 for an event. He was usually speaking about economics, but he was really popular with young people, and especially because probably you saw some videos of Milei, how he speaks, how he screams. So when this happens, it got a lot of us as a surprise, especially regarding a Spert campaign. I also worked somehow in the Spert campaign, and it was a total mess. What you expect usually of a libertarian candidate, it was really low support from the population, and also a lot of mishandling of the funds regarding the campaign. But then this start happened. This is something, if you go to Milei's Instagram and you see the captions, you will see this phrase a lot, fenomeno barrial, which means neighborhood phenomenon. And it's basically that Milei started doing his campaign by going out. This is all in COVID times, by the way. That's why you see a lot of people with a mask there. And then one famous economist and candidate of the liberal part of Argentina, López Murphy, said that it was a neighborhood phenomenon. This doesn't go outside of Buenos Aires. This is something crazy that is happening in Buenos Aires, but it doesn't have the support of the Argentinian population at all. And it's mostly young people, crazy people that is bored, that go to these events. You maybe see the Gasden flag there. It was, at this moment, really dismissed what was happening with the youth. And he started giving economic lectures. It was his first approach with public speaking. He was explaining how Austrian economic works, and that attracted a lot of young people in Argentina. Then on the elections, this is something that you will all see. We already spoke about that the Milei voter is young, but he, in the elections, we figured something else, that the Milei voter is also low class. And this is something, this is Belgrano, is one of the wealthiest parts of Buenos Aires. Milei got the lowest in his election as deputy, as representative. And this is the poorest part of the Buenos Aires province. And Javier Milei got the highest. This is something that for a lot of people was a shock, because usually in Argentina, they categorize people based on their economic status, because mostly poor people voted for Peronism, middle class voted for something else. But then we see that something else started happening. So it was first the youth, and now it's the low class of Argentina. And this was, as we can see, the start of his 2023 campaign. And maybe you probably saw the videos of the chainsaw, the stadiums full. And I will tell you some characteristic of this campaign, why I think it's so unique. First, because of the economic support. In Argentina, you receive some money when you run for president, but that's not enough to cover all the cost. Mostly because you probably saw the size of Argentina. So if you need to travel, if you need to check your ballots and everything, it was not enough money. Most of the people that work in the campaign in my city, they were printing Milei ballots on their home. So they were spending off their own money in order to support the Milei campaign. And that most of the campaign was held in Instagram and TikTok. This is also a trend that is start happening in politics. And with Milei ban from TV channels, it was the only source that people could see what Javier Milei has to offer. And then he was banned from school. This was something that was said by the education minister, that basically if you are seeing a video of Milei in your school as a 16-year-old, you can get a penalty. And it was something, and this is the biggest misinformation campaign of Argentine history. And as Milei didn't have any political experience, most of this campaign was based on his personal life. Here we see some of the news. For example, you may saw that he's in love with his sister, that he speaks with his dog, that wants to legalize the market for adoptions, the market for organs, that is mentally unable to be Argentine president, and that hates the central bank. And this is my favorite because I think it's really clever and funny, that he hates the central bank because he didn't get an internship there. And this is something that you may believe, okay, this happens in all the campaigns in the world. We see it in a lot of countries. But why was this different? I remember when I was in my home city in Mendoza, we were working in the campaign, and I remember a message saying, hey, there is a big sign in the center of the city saying that Mileis want to sell organs. And we basically have to wake up everyone in our friend group to go to the center of the city and take it out. And this happened a lot of times during the campaign. And all of this fake news, also you have to think that a lot of Argentine people don't have internet access widespread as it is in Europe. So for a lot of people, the only source of knowledge that they have about Milei was what they were seeing in social media. And this type of campaign was really harmful. Not only it happened on the social media, but also on the debates. Basically, if you see in the debates, in the final debate, Massa asked directly Milei if he hates the central bank because he didn't get the internship there. This was the result of the first round. As you can see, what happened here, it was not only a shock for everyone working in the campaign. We were expecting, we have some information about 20%, and for us was great. We didn't expect it to see this map. In the case of my city was 56%. In other parts of the country was 80%. This is total crazy. For any political campaign in Argentine history, we are talking about a candidate that is not Peronist, that he didn't have any persons in some towns for controlling the votes, because remember, this is Latin America, people can steal votes. And that's the thing, like, nobody expected this. Also, you may hear about that Milei has this whole religious part of him, and he speak about the forces of heaven, that the forces of heaven help him. And I think definitely that the forces of heaven help him to control the votes, because I don't know how he could do this on the first round. Then we arrived to the primaries. In this, Milei, he didn't get any votes, new votes, we say. But it determined how the composition of the Congress will be. And this is really, especially now that we will speak about what is currently doing in Argentina, you can see that this, on the right side of the Congress, is a really small part of the Congress. And most of the party is Peronist. This is also the same in the Senate. In the Senate, he even loses by 2/3 of the votes. So they can actually impeach him if they want. At the end, on the final round, this is what happened. And this is really, you have to think that it is 11% of the votes of difference. It's a lot of difference. This made Javier Milei the most voted president of Argentine history when it regards to votes, and also when it regards to percentage when it comes to the last constitution of Argentina. So yeah, definitely we will speak now about what is happening in the country, because I think we all hear really good points. And also on this campaign, you can start seeing some of the problems that Milei had. Especially regarding campaign, I was 20 years old, 21 years old working with him, and he didn't have a team behind it. So, and now we are seeing that in governance and how that affects definitely how he managed the country.
Thank you. I have one more sort of a technical question, and one question is, what was your role on the campaign? And the more technical question is, if you can go back to the slide with the congressional election. what's the system that is that exists in Argentina for Congress? Because do I read that right? That the party received 30% of the vote, but has like, what is it, 1/5 of the votes in the lower chamber? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, it's because in Argentina you vote for half of the Congress people. So you only elect half in this election. In the next, in 2025 legislative, you will vote for the other half of the Congress. And your other question was? What was your role on the campaign? Oh, my role on the campaign, we mainly had two. In my city, Mendoza, maybe you will see Mendoza is, if you know some geography, you will see the capital of Chile in the other side. So it was nearby the Andes Mountains. I was handling mostly the TikTok campaign in Mendoza, and also the campaign for Argentinians living abroad, because there was a big population there that they usually don't want to vote because they live abroad already. And so we work mostly in Facebook groups, help them to know the papers for voting and that type of stuff.
Okay, thank you. Did your TikTok campaign reach Dolní Břežany? did you vote in the election?
I vote here in Prague in the embassy, but I didn't see any of the TikTok.
Well, I'm also not on TikTok, so it didn't reach me either. So we will now move to the debate part. Are there immediately points of contention among the panelists? Do you want to critique me or any of your fellow panelists, or maybe praise them? Or
I want to ask here, because you said that in Argentina most of the people, they don't have access to internet, but they had access to TikTok, and so how you can access to TikTok without internet?
I mean, it is internet for receiving information. If you are using internet for receiving entertainment, that's in political campaigns a whole different thing. For example, you will see here in Europe, a lot of candidates, they work mostly on the platform. So they explain to people, hey, this is what I will do. In our case, was entertain people. That's why you saw videos of Milei with a chainsaw, what you see him taking things and saying afuera. That was mostly our approach, because we believe that most of the people in Argentina, they were tired of politicians and they didn't want to hear. One different approach was the one that Larreta did. You maybe remember that he had like a whole apparatus of explaining what he will do with the country, and that didn't work at all. So we went for the entertainment part. And so I'm referring to people don't having access to internet to inform themselves, because in Argentina, the average political knowledge of people is usually linked to their parental status, to their families. A lot of people vote in Argentina Peronist because their family vote Peronist, and that's a unique thing of Argentine culture, I think, and that's what we base the campaign on.
Thank you. Any more points? If not, then I have some issues that I would like to discuss maybe with all of you. What's the let's say view of the population on these maybe more cultural war issues or social issues that I don't think are as prominent or maybe at all in the Czech Republic, but when we read the news we think Americans are crazy because they debate because they ban abortion, or they want to maybe ban contraceptives or stuff. What's the attitude in Argentina among the political class and among the people as well? Any of you may want to answer.
I can try it. It's 1 second. Great, wonderful. I can try it. I mean, I don't have any specific figures, but I think I will try to answer that in a more general dimension. Let's put it like that. So we mentioned some details of his agenda, of his first 100 days, and so on and so forth. But my impression was that he was voted by many people, not only by the young ones, a very interesting phenomenon as well. He was voted since the people, after 100 years, or let's say 80 years, 90 years of Peronism, corruption, inflation, crisis, problems, whatever, they wanted a change, a real change. And I mean, you gave us the figures, so highest percentage, highest number of concrete voters, and so on and so forth. So that was a message. I mean, when it comes to my, let's call it private evaluation. So I lived in Buenos Aires, and I mean, in city of Buenos Aires, the city of Buenos Aires has always been an anti-Peronist island. So everything having to do with Peronism was a problem. Whereas the province of Buenos Aires was a stronghold of the Peronism. So I lived in Buenos Aires. The office was and still is in Buenos Aires. And my private evaluation, so talking with not only with our partners, with Lopez Murphy, that is clear, they have their position, but talking with our partners, not only talking with our partners, but talking with our neighbors, talking with the parents of classmates of my children, hairdressers, supermarket, 100% they said, so we won't vote. That was in August. So before I left, we won't vote for Peronists. We will vote for Milei. In Buenos Aires, I think he would have, based on my private talks, he should have reached 100%. Whereas in Provincia de Buenos Aires, trickle 0%, maybe or 10%. So that means that some specific questions, abortion, same-sex marriage, drugs, you name it, that was not that crucial. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you were doing campaigning, so I mean in October, November. I left in August. So, but that was not all these details. And the same with the central bank. I think he was not voted. Milei was not voted. Because of his standpoint towards the central bank, yes or no, towards his dollar. He was the symbol, and still is the symbol, of radical change. The radical change, something radical new. And I think many people, and I know that, I mean, I had to talk with many people, they didn't care the details when it comes to moral issues or his private life and whatever, all the fake. They didn't care. The frustration in Argentina was that high, and maybe still is that high, that they voted for something new. So that's why it's tricky, the question, what do they think on A, B, C, D? I don't know. And last remark maybe, so that was a big the big kairos, a good option for him, but there is a risk, since I mean we know that is the same with all politicians. They need to deliver, and I mean if he's trying to deliver. He and his cabinet, his team, they're trying to deliver. But if they don't deliver, if after I don't know 3, 4, 5 months, semester, end of the year. So there's no much change when it comes to the inflation, when it comes to public debts, and if there are no concrete changes for the empiric life of the people. So the figures, the statistics are one thing, but the empiric life of the people, there's no much change, then he will have a problem. Plus the situation in the Congress. We talk about that later, but that's for some specific projects or keywords or concepts or ideas. I think at the moment the Argentinians, they wanted to have and still want to have something new.
Thank you. Other takers?
No, I agree with everything, and I think he still has quite high popularity still. I don't know how much it will last, because nowadays the mood of people is getting worse and worse. In particular, after on Sunday was big demonstration because we had this anniversary of dictatorship, and they released a video that the people were not happy with it. And, it's my impression that all the time trying to confront everyone without reason, they can easily avoid all these things. And they don't do it. They are trying to all the time, to it looks to me that they're trying to bother people. I don't know why, but it still, he's having a lot of popularity.
And what's the attitude of the normal people, of the population towards abortion? Because it seems to me, I don't want to talk for other people, but it seems to me that almost all Czech people are for abortion. And if I'm not mistaken, there are Latin American countries that have legalized same-sex marriage. So what's the situation there?
I don't know.
So here, if you say that you are against abortion, everybody will look at you like you're crazy. Is that the thing in Argentina, or is it the other way around, or is it half and half, or what's your feeling? Or maybe you have a knowledge of some opinion polls. And the same question: what do people think about same-sex marriage? This is more difficult here than abortion. But so what's the situation?
Concerning interruption, I think that not everyone, because when it was approved, it was not easy, and it was in fact done because it was a very strong feminist movement in Argentina, and that helps a lot for this law to be approved. And again, this government now is against all this feminist way. I don't know why, but somehow they're against that, and of course, this is making the mood of people not so good, because I don't see the reason why you should be against people who are fighting for women's rights.
But what do people think
about interruption? Yeah. I would say also depends on the region. Like in Buenos Aires, I will say it's half-half. But if you go more to the countryside, maybe people are not. Maybe they don't have like a strong opinion. But I don't know. I cannot provide you numbers really. But what I can say that when it was discussed, the law in the Congress, it was huge in feminism movement that helps a lot for this to happen. Yeah. Do you want to comment?
Yeah, also regarding abortion, we had some numbers on how popular the topic was, and it was popular among the demographic of the population that didn't vote for Milei. So that was a thing that, Milei is really strong against abortion. So the only way, and he did it on campaign, because there is also a legal factor in Argentina. Once something is considered as a right, you make a law for creating a right, you cannot just turn it off. And the only way of doing that is with a referendum, but that never happened in Argentinian history. If you remove abortion from the legal ways, then the Supreme Court of Justice will take it out, because it's not, according to our constitution, possible. And also regarding something that you mentioned with the popular manifestation and the approval rating of Milei, I saw some number, I think it was yesterday, I'm not sure how true it is, but it says 63%. I don't think that's true, but I do think it's still a big support. And regarding the popular manifestation, and maybe that live in Buenos Aires, you saw a lot of popular manifestation. Is something that happens a lot. One of the parties that do a lot of public manifestation is Trotskyism, the Frente de Izquierda, the more left than Peronism party. However, they get always 2% of the votes. So yeah, they have the power to mobilize, to make this protest, but when it comes to voting, that is the important part in a democracy, we don't see that support. So that will be my take.
So, sorry, to be sure, the older people who are not Milei's voters are against abortion, or is that more or less what? Yeah, I wasn't sure if the. Okay, thank you.
One remark on abortion, and then a remark on the manifestations or protestations. I wouldn't say in favor or against abortion. I would say in favor or against a liberalization of abortion. I mean, that was the issue. That was the issue have been the issue for many, many years. Argentina is a very, like many countries, Czech Republic maybe not that intensive, but the United States, Brazil, Argentina, it's a country, a very polarized society, a very polarized country, and one could see that very clearly on the abortion issue. The question was in favor of more liberalization or more freedom or not, more freedom for women to decide or not. There was a very polarized, very emotional debate in combination with many, what is it in English? Protestations, manifestaciones, protestations. So you are absolutely right. I mean, our office, Naumann Foundation's office, is located directly at the Congress, in the political center of the city, which means we had a protestation every Wednesday, a big one, and then for my first 2 years, I think, a little bit smaller but very intensive one on every Thursday. That were the Blues against the Greens, and I can't remember. I think the Greens, they are in favor of more liberalization of abortion, and the Blues against. So they were linked to colors. So, and they had their manifestations every Thursday and very radical. We maybe come back to the style of Milei later. I mean, Milei, that's a different story now, but the style of the manifestations, not my pairs of shoes. So, I mean, I was really shocked then. I mean, when it comes to the style of articulating the political willingness of both sides. So it was more a question of style than of content. But that was decided. There was, I think, the last step was, correct me if I'm wrong, in that I think that was after COVID, December 20 or early 22, the decision of the Senate, the second step, and the Senate with a quite slight majority decided for in favor of more liberalization. That is the situation now. President Milei has tried to revise that. I don't have figures either, but first of all, it's a question of generation in favor or against, and it's a question of the province or the region. And you are right. I mean, Buenos Aires, that's a like city, big churches, but they are empty on Sunday, more or less. But when you go a little bit more to the northwest of Argentina, Provincia Salta, Jujuy, so we don't have the map here. So where Argentina was created, was defined, so where Argentina started, it's a more traditional region. I mean, they vote for the Peronist as well, but for a conservative version of Peronist. But they attended the mess on Sunday. And they are more against more liberalization. Last remark? What is quite interesting from a political or ideological point of view, the libertarians, I mean, you might know Rothbard. The libertarians, they are in favor of freedom. Rothbard says, okay, the belly of women is their property. They can decide whatever they want to do with what is in the belly. So that's a quite, you might say left, but it's a quite libertarian issue. Whereas I would say a slight majority of our liberal and libertarian friends in Argentina, they are like Milei. Some are Catholics, liberal Catholics, but they are against more liberalization or in favor of revising the current legal situation, like Milei. So that's a little bit tricky. Again, that is no black and white. There are many gray zones. Manifestations, one remark on that, or protestations. These big ones, not only them, but the big ones every Wednesday, they were paid. They were organized and they were paid. So I don't take them seriously. I mean, they are a factor. I mean, they are blocking the whole city center. So anything goes. So that's why, I mean, you need to take them serious. But on the other hand, politically, I don't take them serious, since the people, they get the biggest part. I mean, there might be some voluntaries, but the biggest part got paid, and they are there since their syndicates, their workers' unions, they organized them, they bring them there, they paid them there. Doesn't impress me very much, and the current Minister of Security, Patricia Bullrich, who was Minister of Security before in the cabinet of President Macri, she's now again Minister of Security. She sends bills to the organizers of these protestations, to the syndicates, to ask them or to make them pay for the police. For the use of the police. So that's a different style as well. I don't know if it's legal, but it's a signal. So that's why I'm very much in favor, to be very clear, I'm very much in favor of liberal workers' unions, independent workers' unions. That's a very, very important issue. But in Argentina, the main part, they are not, they were not, and they are still not free or independent. And they are part of the system, and that's why we are criticizing that very, very much, since they are not independent.
Were they dependent on, or who?
Paralists.
Okay, thank you.
Other more radical parties.
Comments, questions, criticisms? No, then I will give the floor to the people in the audience. If we have the mic. Okay, please talk to the mic. It will not be audible in this speaker, but it's for the recording. So if anybody has a question. If not, then I will keep asking my questions.
Hello. I wanted to know, well, from the little I know about the situation in Argentina, I understand that Milei has a fairly libertarian agenda, or possibly, and I would like to hear your assessment about the plausibility or probability of him succeeding in putting this agenda through, and if you are, as I am, skeptical that he will be able to put it through, I wonder whether you think it's because he's not really libertarian, it's just somewhat a radical facade that he chose to show off for the purposes of winning the election, to dress up as somebody who's in favor of radical change, or because even though he is true libertarian, or he really wants to put it through, he is facing so much opposition from the establishment that it's virtually impossible, that he'll just get swept away, and in 5 months people will be tired of him and he will be gone. Thank you.
Thank you. To summarize the question for the people in the back, can Milei succeed, and is it a facade that he's a libertarian? Takers?
Regarding this thing of the platform of Milei, it is available online. You can read it, and it's not the typical ANCAP style. Of course, it's a political campaign, and it has some advances in liberty defense and the overall ideological aspect of libertarianism. And I think with this that you said, that he dressed up as libertarian for winning the elections, I think if it happened, it was the worst strategy ever, because libertarianism is not popular. And this is something that it happens that, well, you see it on US elections, that they don't get a lot of votes. So it was a bad strategy. If that was the strategy. He, of course, is a hardcore libertarian. One of his dogs is called Murray, after Rothbard. So if that counts somehow. But regarding the platform, and also something that I forgot to mention, that I think you mentioned regarding CONICET and the funding of CONICET, in the platform, it says that most of these state entities will change or disappear. And that's one of the reasons why they got funding cuts, because they are seeing, okay, this infrastructure exists, is paid by the state, can we sustain it? And that's what they are seeing right now. That's the overall strategy that was in the platform, and somehow that's the platform that 55% of Argentinians voted. So I think, of course, most of the people in Argentina is not hardcore libertarian, but they give a chance for this libertarian guy to do something. We will see what happens. I don't have the future ball, but I'm really hoping that he can, and I'm certainly like that he will create a change in Argentina, because I think the country needs it somehow.
It is my impression that for any president to run the country, you need some kind of dialogue. You need to negotiate things with with people in the parliament, and it's not what they are doing. They are just they believe that they are the owners of the truth, and but they need a parliament. If not, if you follow the news from Argentina, there is no dialogue at all. And I don't think it is a good approach.
I mean, the same line. First of all, I'm convinced as well that he was elected not because he's a libertarian, but although he's a libertarian, so very clearly. So that was not that interesting. Again, the new style, promise to do something new, that was the reason for many people voting for Milei, and not his libertarian program on debt issues, tax issues, and so on and so forth, or abortion again. So that at the same time, that is a risk. I see a risk, since if he doesn't succeed in the upcoming month, or I don't know, 2 years, when I mean we have midterm elections. Well, Argentina, there are midterm elections in next year in November. You mentioned that half of the Congress of the Parliament will be elected, and so on and so forth. Some governors, I think. So if he won't succeed, then that will affect the liberal plus libertarian, but I think in general the liberal non-Peronist approach in general, and that could be a very serious problem. I mean, the Peronists, they are very well organized. That's why I was a little bit surprised that they didn't win the election. I thought they will manipulate a little bit, and in the end they will win. So Sergio Massa, the candidate of the Peronist camp, that was my expectation, with 52%. Maybe I was wrong. Thank heavens, I would say. Since I'm more critical on Massa, indeed. So that's why they are very well organized. I mentioned the syndicates and many other non-profit organizations and civic society. So and if Milei and with his ideas he will fail, then the whole non-Peronist approach will have a problem. That's for sure.
Other questions, Diana?
I have a question. How is the economy situation right now, and if the things are getting better? Thank you.
Well, regarding the economy, for everyone that did some studies on economics, especially monetarian type of economy, you will see this thing that when you are reducing inflation, then the stagnation and deflation process happens, and that totally destroys the ability of people to buy things. That's something, is an economic rule. Sadly, that happens when you try to lower inflation. Regarding the lowering of inflation, though, there is some expectation for this month that for the first time it will be one-digit inflation per month, so around 8% inflation past month. Hopefully that will happen, but in a lot of places in Argentina that's not the case. Also, there is a big monopoly on the supermarket and groceries industries in Argentina, so it's really hard for people to see if inflation is decreasing. But I hope, and with all the cutting they did in the economy regarding the public sector, hopefully that inflation will get solved, but that will take around 9 to 12 months.
Just to put it into perspective, people here were very upset with the inflation being 18% in a year, and the inflation in Argentina in December was 23% or something. in the 1 month. So the economic problems are a little, or the monetary problems, let's say, are a little different and maybe even unbelievable from our point of view. Yes, Daniel.
Are you hear me? Just a quick question: how he can fix the inflation? If he does he have some power over the central bankers or not? How he can fix it, actually?
Yeah, I'm not an economist by studies. I study international relations and political marketing, but I will say that he explained the process. Also, we had this dollarization thing that is really popular in Argentina, and I think when we did some research about it, it was the economic measure that people like the most, even higher than inflation. So if we make people decide between lower the inflation or having dollars, they prefer to have dollars, actually. And that's something unique of Argentinian culture. In Argentina, you save in dollars.
I was asking how he can actually change how the inflation is made, because it's made by the central bankers, if I am correct. So does he has a power over the central bank or not?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Argentina is a really presidential
so he
style. He can. Definitely he has all the power of the executive for making decisions. He doesn't have the decision for taking out taxes, for example. That's on Congress, but he does have that ability, according to Argentine constitution, to remove, take out anything he wants. That's perhaps good, perhaps bad, but it's how the system in Argentina works.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think you were talking about the independence of the central bank, and I have to say I agreed with everything you said except for the dollarization. I think it would be. I think the politicians in Argentina have proved over many decades that they are incapable of managing their monetary system, and for a country like that, as it is the case for Italy, for example, it's better to take somebody else's currency. But what do you think, or what's your view?
Yeah, I mean, talking about inflation and central bank, I mean, yeah, first of all, yeah, independence is very, very important. But then you need the essential, an independent central bank needs a very, very clear philosophy or message or corporate identity. I mean, when it comes to the German central bank, which is always considered to be a role model and was a role model for the European central bank, then or its main goal is stability of the currency. So, the no inflation or inflation up to, I don't know, 2%, something like that. So up to 2%, no inflation, zero inflation. It's a topic as well. So, but no inflation and no deflation, which is a problem in Japan, by the way, where it was before. So, but Argentina, so to come to your question, I mean, the inflation is more or less 100% caused by, printing money by the central bank to finance the public debts, and to finance the social programs, to finance your friends. I mean, Argentina, sorry for that, sorry to be very, very open, but Argentina is a mafia state. So the Peronism, not the whole state, sorry for that, but the Peronism, which was kind of, or same like the state, it's a mafia. It's nepotism, it's clientelism. So, which means, everything everyone is linked to everyone. President with the central bank with the public sector, private sector, and so on and so forth. So that's why many things are have been working due to printed money and inflation. So, and that needed and needs to be stopped. And I mean, that is one of the first points of his agenda. So, in this moment, it's good to be able to say to the central bank, please stop the printing machine. The money is coming from Spain, I think. They don't have the printing machines in Argentina. They are not sufficient anymore. So they bring planes with printed money from Spain, I think. So pesos, they were produced in Spain, but it's a different story. But anyway, it's printed and it doesn't anything. So that is the first thing. Stop producing more and more money. And then after that is a process. You might see that you have independent bank, independent not only from a non-Peronistic president, but also from a Peronistic president. Since one day maybe we have again a Peronist president with an idea to produce money again.
Well, I haven't heard this anecdote yet that the inflation is so high that the Argentinian printers are unable to keep up, which it might tell the politicians that it's time to slow down if the state doesn't have the capacity to print the money. You wanted to add something? You were writing something down.
I can add one anecdote. I mean, talking about anecdotes. I mean, so the biggest, what is it, billiard, peso billiard, for many years was the 1,000 pesos billiards. Now they're introduced a year ago in my last year, 2,000. But I mean, when you go to the, I mean, I left in August, so I have a family, 4 people. So I had a supermarket. I don't know, when I went to the supermarket, I paid 30,000, something like that. Okay, that is. But when I went to the bank to to withdraw, let's say 1,000 euros in pesos, then it requires a big bag to take all these billiards. I mean, there was no 10,000, 20,000 billiards. It was 1,000, and then it was. I mean, that was practical. I mean, we are talking now about political philosophy, but the practical life for ordinary people was very complicated. The supermarket, many supermarkets or grocery stores, they didn't give you the price. You need to ask them, since it doesn't work to renew the prices every day. Since every Sunday when I did my supermarket for my family, I needed to pay not the double, but 2,000 more, 3,000 more, and from time to time you have price indicators from time to time. So that affected daily life very seriously in the whole country, and for everyone, not only for the poor people or for the rich people, for everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, also on that sense of the bill thing, it was the highest for a lot of time. 1,000 pesos is €1. So you can imagine if you have a lot of bills of €1. I remember when I visited Argentina for Milei's campaign, I was with €100 that here in Europe is nothing. I went to exchange, and in Argentina, in that time, it was illegal to exchange money. You can imagine how that works. So you usually go to the black market. I remember I entered to a black market. It was a dark place for exchanging money. I give €100 and I receive a full bag full of Argentinian pesos. And I feel like I was still in a bank because I was like with a backpack on it. So yeah, definitely it is a problem for the Argentine economy and how people have that sense of that everything is wrong. For example, in Argentina, if you go to a restaurant don't have menus. They usually have it in a QR code because they need to change the prices every day. If you print a menu, you don't have enough liquid paper for deleting it every day. So yeah, that's something that affects a lot of the life of Argentine people also. And now with, for example, some of the things that changed with Milei, that it was an amazing measure on the beginning of his government, was the renting law. That basically now people can rent in dollars, which is more smart in some way if you have a salary in dollars, of course, because on that you can know your cost. Because for a lot of people was with the previous law that they were receiving new prices on renting every month, and so they cannot not only to planify their life, but the whole economy, especially for those that like Austrian economy, you know that saving money is a key part on how the economy works. If you cannot do that in Argentina, the economy will fall, of course.
Thank you. A funny thing that just came to my mind, typically in economic school, at least when I was in school, we were taught that one of the costs of inflation is the so-called, that's what it's called, menu costs, the cost of reprinting all your menus. This theory was developed, I think, in the 1970s or 1980s, where there were no QR codes, and there were no when I was at school. So maybe a question for young economics students: do they still teach one of the costs of inflation is menu costs. We have an economics teacher here, so maybe he can answer that question. Do you still teach menu costs even though there are QR codes? Yeah, they do. So textbooks will learn about QR codes maybe in the next 20 years. I wanted to ask you though, to keep you in the discussion. As far as I understand, one of the problems, or maybe even one of the main problems, is the very big deficits of the central government and possibly even the provincial governments. I don't know about that. Do you agree that Argentina is in a different position than the United States and cannot run the deficits forever, and there needs to be something cut from the spending? I understand, of course, that everybody wants to keep their industry intact, and I don't want to say that science is unimportant, but do you have any view on how to solve it or alleviate the problem? Or do you are there, I don't know, are there maybe big subsidies to businesses that should be cut, that should be the priority to be cut, not science, or subsidies to farmers or something like this, or export subsidies? I really don't know.
I mean, I'm not an economist, but definitely it is not in science what you should cut. Because if you really want to grow as a country, you need science. So how you will do it without science is, I really think that it is the very last point where you should cut in science. There is no way to grow. I mean, this everyone knows, particularly in Europe, how much you invest in science, and then all this knowledge that the scientists are getting, then applies, and for making, I don't know, the process to build whatever faster, to use less resources. I mean, I really don't think that it should be in science, and probably. I mean, this government, for me, they're all the time having like a double speech. They say we don't have money, we have to cut money in the culture, in science, here, there. And a month ago, they increased automatically the salary for themselves like a 30%. So what? But well, you can do it because, I mean, as he said, the president has this power to. All the politicians, they can automatically increase the salaries because you just make it. The president signed it. I mean. 1 minute after you have 30% more money in your salary, and then you go to the TV and say we don't have money for scientists, we don't have money to keep culture or all these things. Any
subsidies or any departments that you would cut, except for the politicians?
I don't know. As I said, I'm not an economist. I don't have a theory for it. I don't even know how to solve this issue with the inflation. I really don't know. But definitely it's not in cutting the budget for scientists. And here in Europe, you know it very well.
Further questions? Okay, whichever of you can grab the microphone first.
Right, thank you. So my question is that, like, here in the Czech Republic, or I guess in Western media more broadly, we often hear the story told in that, like, the Argentinians didn't really vote for Milei. They voted against Peronism. They voted for change. And, like, I guess my problem with that is, like, you can say that about almost any election. So I guess my question about that is, like, how many of the 56% that voted for Milei are, like, convinced believers, and how many is, like, people who just wanted change?
Well, it's a really good question. I will say that the first election tells you the most about who those voters of Milei are, around 30% of the population. And I think, as you said, that can apply to any democracy in the world, especially when you have a system, as you have many countries here in Europe, that you have a parliament, that you maybe can vote for the party you like, and then they will create a government out of it. Also, the case of Germany, I think that's more democratic on my view, but sadly the system in Argentina it requires that when there are two candidates, you vote for one or the other, and your white vote doesn't count. So it's definitely something of how democracy works. And I think, sadly, it is the system that we have in Argentina. It's not the best, but it's the one that we have. And the one, if you want to run for the elections, is the one that you should learn how to win.
Yeah, I think that is a kind of destiny of many politicians. I mean, first of all, you are right. I mean, depends much on the political system. Germany or Austria as examples, or even the United Kingdom's parliamentarian system. So you vote for parties, and in many, many countries you vote for figures, since they have a presidential system. France, United States. And I mean, you are right. That seems to be very frustrating for someone who is elected, that he was not elected because of his charisma or his program, but because of the weakness of his enemy, enemy, the other candidate. I mean, I would say, so if Biden wins, Joe Biden in November, if he wins, then he will win because of many people would like to avoid Trump. So that is, he needs to live with that. And I mean, when it comes to Germany, parliamentarian system, de jure, but de facto, people vote for candidates. And I would say there was one election when people voted for Angela Merkel. Normally they voted against someone. The other candidate survives. But so that's a destiny, unfortunately. But that I still would say that Milei was voted amongst others, since the people would like to have a pause, a break from the Baronism.
El Señor Gallo.
Thanks. May I ask you about the plans for dollarization, for his plans about dollarization, how he's gonna do that? What is he keeps in mind? Because I think that whenever it happens, the peso will be practically priceless. So are the savings already in dollars in Argentina, or how do people manage this one?
So the question was how is Milei going to do the dollarization? I would add, my question, is he going to do it? Because I heard, I don't know if that's true, that Señor Ocampo left whatever the group of advisors who was pushing for the dollarization. So what's the situation here?
Yeah, regarding the dollarization plan, there is a problem regarding debt that the government has with banks. That debt is in Argentine pesos, and what the current Ministry of Economy, Caputo, is doing is that they are buying that debt, and they are buying dollars with the funds that they get out of selling. That is really complicated economy stuff, but basically, Argentina doesn't have the money to dollarize, but at the same time, there is big expectation, and they are making some research about it, about how many dollars Argentine had in their room, we say under the bed in Argentina, because people don't put it on the bank. When they have dollars, they have it at home, and some people are actually doing groceries now with those dollars because of the crisis, and that's one of the reasons why also the peso increased his value actually in the last couple of months. Increase his value regarding the dollar, but not regarding the shopping power. Is something really economy related. And also what you were saying about Ocampo is true, that he got fired. There is, I hear some versions about it that is mostly related to political things that to the plan. As I said, the dollarization plan is the most popular measure of Milei, and I think he will use that silver bullet in one moment, probably if he saw that his popularity is decreasing, he will say, okay, first, we will get rid of all exchange money restrictions, because we still have some of the restrictions. You cannot freely buy dollars in the open market in Argentina still. And so he will probably use that for political purposes, for maybe the upcoming election. It will be a good change, or for the re-election if the numbers go with it.
I wanted to, don't know if you can hear me. Yeah, wanted to ask about the concentration of ministries to one, because there were canceling of some ministries, and here in this country, and I think it's the reality of EU, when you are canceling one institution, you are not dismissing people, you are moving people to another ministry or to another institution. So just wanted to ask you if really is the reality in Argentina that the people from the, I think it was Ministry of Education, Culture, Labor, and 2 more ministries I can remember was concentrated to one institution. So does it really mean that the people are dismissed, or how was it actually? Thanks.
Yeah, people was dismissed, and a lot of people lose their job. Sadly, I mean, it's still somebody's family that that lost an economic opportunity. But as you mentioned, some of the ministries were fusioned. Some of them were totally closed. That was the case of the Culture Ministry and also the Women and Diversity Ministry. And for just to make a figure, the Women Ministry in the last year of Alberto Fernandez's presidency was around 3% of the total product of Argentina, and defense was half of it. So you can say that there is a lot of people, and something that you also mentioned, this thing of corruption in public entities. We saw videos, actually a lot of the campaign now, what they are doing is that they show how these public institutions work. For example, there is a really funny video of that they enter one of these public entities and there is someone doing a barbecue inside. There is totally no control on what happens. Also, there is a video, most of you, when you enter your office, you have to put your finger for saying, okay, I'm here, I'm working. And when they put that in one ministry, the next day people broke it because they didn't want to go to work, despite they receive a really good for Argentinian economy salary. And so, yeah, that's a thing that happens, sadly. A lot of people lose their job, but hopefully, and that will be for the better of the overall economy. Sadly, when in politics, you have to make this type of hard decisions that affect a lot of people. But if democracy gives you the power for changing, you have to use it. So.
Okay, so I have a couple of follow-up questions. If he closed down the culture, the Ministry for Culture, does it mean there are no subsidies going to the National Theater or things like that? Or how does it work now? Also a question, I assume universities and schools are financed by the state. Are they financed by the central government or by the provinces or by the cities, or how does that work? And my last question, does he want to increase military spending? Because I understand that that's very popular always with the caudillos, Latin American strongmen, to show the force we're going to invade another country, I don't know, Bolivia, whatever. Is that the case, or what's the situation?
I don't think Argentina wants to invade anyone. But concerning culture is a big issue now, because they are they don't want to support any culture. They cut the budget for movies, for theaters, for everything. And yes, and concerning universities, there you have like a state universities, like a public universities and private. And for the public universities, the ones that are like a national universities, the state send the money. And I mean, the universities are independent in the sense that once you send the money to them, the dean of the university, they don't have to explain how he spent or how the university spent the money. They're completely independent. Now they want to control. They're asking the university, so how you will spend the money, how you will use it. And I think this is not a good idea.
So the National Theater closed, or what happened to it? If the ministry closed and there's no money flowing?
They want to sell theaters, the cinemas. People can buy it and run it privately.
Just regarding the universities, they are, as you said, autonomous, and high school are on the authority of provinces. Regarding culture and national theaters, in some stay as the Teatro Colón is the most famous Argentinian theater, and the other ones are mostly owned by provinces. And regarding culture, one of the things that this ministry was doing was that they finance festivals. Music festivals, and there are some, and there was actually a really big thing in Argentina. There is a singer called Lali that is like Argentinian Dua Lipa, so you can make the idea. And basically she was in one of the poorest cities on Argentina making a concert paid by the government, and she got around I think it was €500,000, but it was like a crazy amount. Of course, Milei said this in national television. It was a big scandal, and also it matches with the cutting of culture, because if you have a ministry that is supporting for artists to go, and at the same time you have people in Argentina that is not making 2 foods per day, it's a moral thing on where do you spend the money. Also, since you mentioned defense, this is true. In Latin America, it's really popular that they like to show up. Well, you have the case of El Salvador. That is the biggest example. And yeah, that will be it. And also regarding the universities, it is a big problem because of the law of autonomy of universities. Make no legal, as you said, that the government controls on what they are spending the money. But at the same time, you see that a lot of people that go to public universities in Argentina, and this was my case when I was studying in Argentina, as we have paid people that go to protest, we also have paid people to go to public faculties to do politics. I remember I was in lectures, and some people arrive on your lecture and say, hey, we have a class of Marxism after this. If you want, you can join. That's something that happens. There are, as you mentioned, this mafia state concept. There is one of the Unión Cívica Radical, a left-tending party in Argentina. They have an aggregation called Franja Morada, and is one of the biggest. They win elections on this autonomy that the universities have, and they spend a lot of money, and they have a total army of people that just works for making politics in universities. You see people that is maybe 40 years old in Argentine universities making politics inside of a university that doesn't actually change anything. That's something that sadly happens in Argentina, and that I don't think that law can be changed, because I think it's constitutional, but I'm not sure if it was for sure not in the program of Milei to change that, but we will see what happens if they decide to do it.
I just want to add, I don't see what is the problem that students can attend a lecture about Mars or about whatever after lecture about math or whatever. I mean, I think the university is the place for that. You get ideas, you discuss with people what's the problem with going to lectures organized by other students after your lecture on math.
I fully agree. So that is in a liberal society that should be possible, and I highly recommend to read Marx to see how wrong he is. So it's definitely worth. I mean, I didn't read all of it, but it's a very, very complicated stuff. But I would be very happy if people read more on that issues. Remark on education, but more on culture. I mean, you know that culture all over the world is considered to be linked more with the left liberals, socialists, progressives, whatever. So that's why conservative and right-wing politicians, they always are very skeptical towards that. When it comes to funding theaters, cinemas, festivals, whatever, I think that is the same. So the idea to reduce the fundings, that is the same with the public sector. I mean, that is one crucial point of the agenda of Milei, and as a good liberal libertarian, whatever, to reduce public spendings. And I mean, the hope is, and that is the process, that is the challenge now for him and for all reformers, economic reformers, to cut the public spendings, to accept poverty for, I don't know, 1 year, 2 years, to hope that the private sector will grow, and that they will the private sector will generate more jobs, and that there will be more investments, private investments, foreign investments, to create then to strengthen the public sector, the private sector. That is the expectation. Let's hope that works. As a liberal, I would say that hopes that works, but we will see. Another remark on the security or defense, security and defense issue. You are right. So I mean, that is quite calm when it comes to international relationships. Latin America is a quite peaceful continent. I mean, not to compare that what is going on here in Europe now, Central Europe, Eastern Europe. So it's a quite peaceful continent. But so it's very interesting to see what is going on there. Since on the one hand, as a good libertarian, he might say, like Trump is a good libertarian when it comes to foreign policy. So what is our job in Afghanistan or in the Ukraine? So as a good libertarians, they say, okay, we take care of our people, of our small state, but not more than that. So a good libertarian normally is a good friend of deep friend of splendid isolation. But that is theory, and practice is different, thank heavens. And again, I mean, we see his quite interesting alliances with Ukraine, with Israel, with democracies, and I don't know if he needs more weapons, a nuclear program or whatever, but he's not in splendid isolation. He's looking in some very interesting alliance. But first point is to reform Argentina, to reform the country, to bring back the country on the path of growth, and I think then he will take care of some international issues.
Thank you. I have to say we are libertarians and we support fully assistance to Ukraine. Maybe we are bad libertarians. I don't know. We have, I think, time for one last question. Okay, if not, then I have my pet question that I kept for the very end. Every year we give this annual award, and a couple of years back we gave it to Daniel Hannan, who is a British conservative, and he has this quip about the Falklands, where he says maybe Argentina would be better off if it were governed from Port Stanley in the Falklands. I understand that Milei somehow made some remarks that the Malvinas should be Argentinian. So what is your view on this whole debate about Falklands or Malvinas or whatever you want to call it?
In Argentina we call it Malvinas. And it is my impression that there is not a big debate on it. It was the Minister for Foreign Affairs. She made some statement before winning the elections, but so far there is not so much discussion on it, I would say. And yes, I think Argentina is, of course, I don't know now with Milei, but before with previous president, it was always, in international meetings trying to make the case stronger and stronger. And I think they succeeded with getting more and more support from international community. But I don't think it is moving further than that.
Regarding the Malvinas, as you said, there is not a lot of division of Argentinians regarding that. And it's also written in our constitution that is a continuous battle of the Argentine government and the Argentine people to have the Malvinas back. And one of the things, it was on the debate, I remember, when I saw this, I started screaming to the TV when he was asked about Thatcher. He was asked about his opinion on Margaret Thatcher, and of course, as he is right-wing libertarian, most of right-wing libertarians, you like Thatcher ideas somehow. And instead of saying, no, I don't like Thatcher, that will be a correct answer for a debate in public television, he started explaining what Thatcher was doing in 20 seconds, which was a really bad decision. And also because for a lot of Argentinians that maybe they lose someone in the war, or they saw it as children, we have the image of Margaret Thatcher with the sunking of the Belgrano cruiser. that was a war crime in all papers. How Thatcher was justifying that it was a threat to British soldiers and that. So I don't think that it will be much of it on Milei's presidency. I do saw, however, last week on the US Embassy in Buenos Aires, they changed a map that instead of saying Falkland Islands, they said Malvinas. That for diplomacy purposes is big thing, but it will not probably change the US stance on the issue. But definitely it marks the only politic that the Argentine state has and keeps, that is to continue fighting for Argentine sovereignty on the Malvinas Islands.
Well, I also read on Wikipedia today that not only Argentina claims to govern over in the constitution over the Falklands, but also a part of Antarctica. So maybe we can expect even more claims to more territory. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to come up with the Thatcher issue as well. I mean, you mentioned that that was quite sensitive for him, since that is his big role model, the same prime minister who reformed the United Kingdom's economy significantly and attacked the then Malvinas, Falklands, whatever. As a German, as a non-Argentinian, as a foreigner, I should always be very careful with that issue. It's very, very sensitive. And interestingly, there are island issues all over the world. There are always some debated island issues, and that is very crucial. And when it comes to the map, we are quite flexible. Let's put it like that. So in our office in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, in the foundation's office, we have a map there as well, a world map. And Argentina as the state where we work, that is in color, in red color. And so we have a flexible map. So we have the Falkland, respectively, our Malvinas, both in red and in white. So it's movable, changeable. So and depending on the people we are receiving, then we, from time to time, we had then the island as part of Argentina and the island of North as part of Argentina. So we are flexible as foreigners, as Germans. Believe it or not, Germans could be flexible. And so we play around that, but it's a sensitive issue. I know that.
Thank you. One last question. If not, then one last question from a panelist.
Just a comment on Antarctica issue, because as I study international relations, is actually really funny. You have the Antarctica Treaty that basically said that all countries can just do science purposes on Antarctica, but at the same time, a lot of countries are claiming sovereignty over it. The thing is, Argentina put it on the constitution because Chile, that is our neighbor, they also put it on their map, and it's overlapping. So the territory that Chile claims is also the one that Argentina claims. There is not an actual problem about it, but it was mostly regarding fishing rights, and that it's not like Argentina want to conquer Antarctica. I don't think we have the money for doing that anytime soon. So, but yeah, that's basically the behind story is mostly fishing rights.
So are we going to see fishermen fighting over the territory in Antarctica? Whether it's Chilean or Argentinian or? You don't think so? Okay, thank you very much. I invite you to an informal continuation of this debate in the next room with wine, babovka, coffee, beer. Beer you have to order at the bar. And I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be happy to see you again soon. Like I said, maybe check out our mission to Ukraine, and if you feel like supporting it, do so. And also buy the books, please. Thank you very much.